Kwa hivyo kutakuwa na noise katika nyumba ya Mungu for the first time in DOI season 2. In DOI season 2. On this date of the Lord, 17th of March 2020, the Lord has given us a great speaker, a great woman of God. She is here with us today. Mukisema ile mzuri ndio sasa nitamaliza. She is here with us today. You are doing well. And she has come to speak to us. So let us put our hands together and welcome Sylvia Noni Kihagi, a great woman of God. She is so beautiful. Wow. Wow, wow. Please appreciate this girl. She looks wonderful from Mira Wealth. Wow, she's a coach. Unaona vile anakaa? Imagine, I think nilikuwa na waistline kama hii siku moja. Please let's appreciate our speaker. Amen, amen. By the way, before she starts, nimesema waistline mukacheka. Does it mean it's not there? May the Lord bless you. Amen, amen.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. I think I should be carrying her with me wherever I go if this is the introduction that's done. Thank you so much. Please have your seats. And just really thank you to Mom Alice. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Reverend Millicent. Thank you, Bertha. I do not take this opportunity for granted. And I'm just so blessed to be talking about something that is very, very passionate to my heart. And that is money. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, we all need money, right? To run this conference, it requires money, yeah? So we're not going to pretend that we do not have or we do not need money. Even Jesus walked with a treasurer. The name was Judas, although he did other things, but because his ministry still needed money, yeah? So today I am talking about turning your passion into profit. And my hope is that after this conference, that you'll actually go and do something about it. One of the things I always say is that for you to build wealth, it takes intention. You will not just wake up wealthy. And even if you do because you were born into a wealthy family, for you to maintain that wealth and ensure that it moves from one generation to another generation, it will take intention. So the fact that you're over here already tells me you're intentional about it. So I will just get straight into it. And I was looking at the theme of the conference, which was designed to conquer territories. And the theme verse was, or is, Proverbs 31:25. And so I looked at it in the Amplified Version, and this is what it says in the Amplified Version. Strength and destiny are her clothing, and her position is strong and secure. And she smiles at the future, knowing that she and her family are secure. How many of us want to smile at the future? Yeah? How many of us want to know that our family and our future is secure? Yeah? And so I was looking at it and saying, then this is who we should be. And so I'm breaking this down into 3 areas. Number 1 is your identity. Number 2 is the foundation. And number 3 is the future. This future that we want to smile at. So I will just get straight into it and look at identity. So I will just read 3 verses that tell us who our identity is and how that identity then impacts how we should relate with money. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 27 in the NIV version. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that we may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6, the Amplified Version. And he raised us up together with him when we believed, and seated us with him in the heavenly places because we are in Christ Jesus. And the third scripture, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, the Amplified Version. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon, which is money, possessions, fame, status, or whatever is valued more than the Lord. And the reason I wanted us to start with this is because when you speak about money, the fact that you're being told you cannot serve God and money shows you that money is a powerful force. So if we are going to do money the right way, the God way, we need to have the God mind about it, right? If you're going to turn your passion into profit, the God way, then let us look at what is God's mind about money. The first thing we are told is we were created in God's image. And what is an image? An image is a copy of, right? Meaning how God thinks is how we should think. And that's why we're told we have the mind of Christ, right? How God acts is how we should act. We know God works, right? He worked at least. He created the world in 6 days. So when he put man in the Garden of Eden, what does he tell man to do? Work. So work is not a curse. The toil was the punishment, but work in itself is of God, because God works. When Jesus was here, he worked. Right? So it's just first of all understanding that even when we are looking at talking about money, it's making sure that we have the same image, we view it the same way that God views it. So that means that even when we are making money, we will not do things that God would not do. Right? So if we are real and we're talking real things, that means that then my strategy for turning my passion to profit should not include a mubaba. Right? That means when I am looking to turn my passion into profit, I should not be looking at wash. It means when I'm looking to turn my passion into profit, I'm not going to say, God, now please, let me just do this kafani deal over here, but I will pay 10% tithe, and so because of that, this corrupt money will become holy, right? So when we're looking at money, we have to look at it at how does God view it, and am I getting this money the way God would approve of it? Because we are turning passion into profit, but in the process, let us not please lose our souls. Yeah? So let's just always remember that we need to have the God view of money, even as I now will start telling us about the money. And the other thing to remember is we are seated up with Christ. And so if we're seated up with Christ, then where is money? Is money your master, or is money supposed to serve you? How many of us, when we go home, we tell the lady or the man who serves us, the house help, oh, no, don't do anything. I have hired you, but I'm going to clean, I'm going to cook, I'm going to run around, I'm going to do everything. We don't do that. Why? Because you have hired her for a reason. You've hired her to help you. That's the role of money. You do not chase money because money is below you. Because remember where you're seated. You're seated with God in Christ. And if you continue to read Ephesians 2, it says, and he's seated above all powers, principalities, rulers, and authorities of darkness, right? So if that's where Christ is seated, and you're seated with him, then where is money? It's below you. You tell money what to do. Money does not tell you what to do. And it is getting that understanding that God has given us this resource to help us achieve his work for us here. We do not chase after it, so we will not, and that's why we will not bother going for mubabas, and that's why we will not bother going for wash and other corrupt dealings. That is where we will remain with integrity. because we understand that this is my servant. So before we even know, as we know, talk about money, are we in agreement there? Yeah? Okay, very good. So remember what it says. Strength and destiny are her clothing. So let that also be your identity, right? Your identity is Christ. Let your strength be in Christ, not in your money. Let your destiny be controlled by Christ. Don't let money try to control your destiny. Yeah? The second thing we are told in Proverbs 31:25, and here I want us to talk about foundation. And that is, her position is strong and secure. So now that we've understood the God bit, now let us deal here. And this is what we're talking about. What is a strong and secure position? So when COVID came, COVID revealed a lot of things. It revealed that people were not financially strong and were not financially secure. It revealed that if you were laid off, you did not know how you were going to meet your next meal. You didn't know where rent was coming from. Maybe some were auctioned. But COVID actually helped people see, and yes, in some places, ni kubaya. Yeah? So this part for her position is strong and secure. I'm actually going to give you an assignment. And in this assignment, I won't tell you to look at your neighbor, because this is a personal assignment. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to calculate your net worth. Yeah? And I want to emphasize here, your net worth is not your self-worth. So whatever number it will come, please do not look at yourself like, guy, I don't know what I have been doing for the last how many years. And also do not be so strong and don't feel so good like, me, I can even handle whatever comes. The purpose of this net worth is to just help us assess how financially strong and secure are you. So I'll tell you what your net worth is. For accountants, please, this is from a personal finance perspective and not from an accounting perspective, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to list down all your assets, right? You'll do this when you go home. You will list down all your assets. What are your assets? Your assets are the things that you own, that you can sell to get money. I'll give you an example. Cash is an asset. So how much money do you have? How much money do you have in your bank accounts, right? How much money do you have in your M-Pesa? How much money do you have wherever it is you store money? So consider cash. Consider things like, do you own a car? That is an asset, right? Even though people like to say it's a liability, it is an asset, but I'll tell you where the liability is. Because your car, if you sell it, you can get money, right? If you own a home, that is an asset. Why? If you sell your home, you can get money, right? Do you have investments, unit trusts, treasury bills, that land and all those things? Those are the things you're going to list down. Because one of the things about money is you have to be very honest with yourself. And yes, we are spiritual, but we live in a physical world. So we have to be very honest with ourselves and see, how much do I actually own? So you list down all of that, everything you own. And then you're going to put the financial value. My house, if I sell it, I will get this amount. My car, if I sell it, I'll get this amount. And you're going to total it up. So that will be your assets. Is that part clear? Yeah? Then the other thing you're going to list down are your liabilities. And this is your debt. Whether it's M-Shwari, whether it is Hustler Fund, whether it is your car loan. So now let me explain. Remember how I said a car is not a liability? A car is an asset, but the loan you took to get the car is a liability. You list it there. If you have a mortgage, you list it there. You owe Nani over there money. You put them over there, right? And you're going to total it up. Then you're going to do a comparison. You're going to take your assets and you're going to subtract your liabilities. And you're going to get one of these three scenarios. Either your net worth will be zero, meaning your assets and your liabilities equal, right? What this means is you're living within your means. Yeah? That's what it means. It means whatever you get, it goes. You get, it goes. Let me ask you, is that a position that is secure? Is that a position that is strong? Do we want to have a zero net worth? Okay. The next thing you'll either see is that your net worth may be negative. And this is what that means. You owe more than you own. Yeah? You and debt, you're like this. You're friends. You're very, very friendly, right? Is that a strong and secure position to be in? No, right? You're living in fear of auctioneers. You're living in fear of, you know how like when you're sending someone money by M-Pesa and they tell you, guy, aki usitume kwa hii sim, tuma kwa hiyo sim ingine, because they know immediately the money enters. That's not a position we want to be in, right? Then the third thing after you do your assignment, the thing you will see is that maybe you have a positive net worth, and that's what we aim for, right? And that means what you own is more than what you owe. Is that a position that is strong and secure? Yes. So the reason why I said this is a personal assignment, based on that, you now have decisions to make about what do I want my next year to look like? What do I want my next 5 years to look like? What kind of life, financial life, do I want my generations to have? But you see, if we just talk about, oh, it is so good to leave an inheritance, but you don't know what you actually have, then you cannot even leave an inheritance for the next generation. So that's why we are going to do this assignment. So how many of us are going to do the assignment? You know this is church, so you can't lie. So when you go home, you better go and do your assignment, right? Because I want us to then have an honest view about our own financial situation. And that is why I also said it's very important to know that your net worth is not your self-worth. Just because you have a negative net worth, please remember your identity. You're still seated in Christ, far above all powers, principalities, rulers, and authorities of darkness in this age and in the one to come. Whether you have a negative net worth or not, you're still made in the image of Christ. Whether or not you have a negative net worth, you're still above money, and money will still serve you. But you now have to make the decision about how you want your life to be while you're here. Yeah? So that is the assignment. The third thing it says about this lady is she smiles at the future knowing that she and her family are secure. And this is why I want us to focus on the future. And the future is even the next second. The future isn't far away. The future is quite close, right? And to understand how you can now be intentional about money is I want us to talk briefly about what is called the wealth cycle. So there is a wealth cycle. At any given time, you're either creating wealth, growing wealth, protecting your wealth, or transferring your wealth. And all these things can happen simultaneously, but at any given time in your life, there's one that is really, really taking the priority. So creating wealth, that is talking about an income. And here your income is not limited to your salary. And that's where we're here, right? Talking about turning our passion into profit. So never feel like you're limited to your salary. I think it's in one of the verses in Ecclesiastes that talks about you should have 6 to 7 streams of income. But we will come back to that. So remember, creating wealth is talking about you just have to generate an income. Yeah? The next part is growing wealth. And when we think about growing wealth, here we are thinking about investments and managing debt. So because I will speak about investments, allow me to take some time to focus on debt. And the reason why is if you look at statistics, Kenyans are riddled in debt. And you will hear a lot of talk about good debt and bad debt, which I don't ascribe to. Yeah? Debt is debt. You know, when you're struggling to pay that debt, the fact that you know it was a good decision doesn't make the pinch any less. Because debt is debt. At the end of the day, you say, yeah, but you know, I took this debt to buy a piece of land, which I am now farming, and you know, things are not working out, but at least I took it for the farm. At that point, that doesn't matter, because you're struggling to pay that debt. That debt has the potential to even ruin your families. It has potential to ruin your reputation. It can affect even what jobs you get to. Because if you're listed in CRB, there are some jobs that tell you, please bring your CRB certificate. We need to make sure you're someone who actually pays their debt. So I want us to be very, very careful on the issue of debt. And I will say this, debt is not a sin. But it's just not a good idea. It is not but it's not just Okay, so I will read for us the Bible, and I hope I remember where it is. I believe it's Proverbs 22, if I'm not mistaken. Here. Proverbs 22, verse 7, and it says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender." Whenever you're in debt, you have taken a position of being the servant to whoever lent you that money. That is why, if you've ever owed a bank money, they can have an attitude. And they can say, well, you haven't paid, we are coming for your car. And there's nothing you can do about it, is there? That is why you will be harassed by the mobile phone debt providers. You know, when they even call your family members and your friends, and all you owed them was 200 shillings. But they will just go over there and ruin your reputation for 200 shillings. But I'm still saying debt is not a sin. Because if we look at, is it in Deuteronomy, when God is listing, when Moses is telling them the blessings and the curses, the blessing is that you're a lender, not a. The curse is that you will borrow only. So if it was a sin, why would God want you to be a participant in a sin? Because if you're lending, then you'd be a participant in a sin. So that is not a sin. But I just want us to know it should never be your first source. And because here we're talking about turning passion into profit, and we'll be looking at things that you could be doing, debt should not be your first source. You're usually told, for instance, if you're looking to start a business, you first at least try and exhaust the 3 F's. The 3 F's are family, friends, and fools. Yeah? Family, friends, and fools. Family, because your family knows you. So if you go to your family, ideally, not all families, but if you go to your family and you tell them, I have this particular need, or I have this thing I'm trying to do, they will be more open and accommodative if they have the money. And when it's time to pay back, they will be more lenient than a bank, than a Shylock. Then the mobile phone people, right? Friends. If you have good friends who are able to, they give you what is considered long, patient capital. So that means they're not going to be, hopefully, harassing you at every step of the way. And then fools. These are just people who, you won't, okay, here. They won't ask you for much. They won't demand much. Because for them, they're just here. If you have those ones, you consider yourself very blessed. But if you've not even exhausted those three, why go into debt? I'll give you an example, a practical example. Let us say your passion is baking, right? So it comes easy and natural to you. And so you're now thinking of how maybe I should start a bakery. How do I make money out of this bakery? And then you say, hey, I need this equipment. I need this type of oven. I need this type of place. Let me go to the circle or to the bank and get that money, right? But what happens if you go to the bank and get money? When are you supposed to start paying off that debt? The next month. Question: has your bakery even settled down? Have you even started making any money? But already you have an obligation. So where will that money come from? Yeah? So what do? Now, because there's this obligation and you have your wonderful business plan, you go and borrow from someone else to pay this one. But now you still owe this one. And has your bakery settled? So are you seeing the trap of debt? Before you get into debt, debt is not an emotional decision. Debt is a financial decision. So you have to calculate what is the actual cost of getting this debt and then decide, and you will see it should never be anyone's first choice, right? Okay, so the next thing that we do is that we protect our wealth. Whatever you create and grow, you must protect, right? And this is now where you will see things like insurance companies coming to you, right? So please, insurance is not an investment. They will, before I say this, I hope there are no insurance salespeople here, but they will try and sell you a life policy as an investment. It is not an investment. It is protection. Because if you look at those returns, my friend, you can make more money than what those returns will give you. But it's protection. So why? If anything happens to you, your children are taken care of. So look at it for protection. So if you do not have beneficiaries you're leaving anything to, why are you getting a life insurance policy? Right? So insurance, protection, not investment. And lastly is transfer wealth. And this looks at, because remember this lady is saying even her future and her family is secure. So let me ask you, a lot of us when we got into employment, we got NSSF, yeah? And then we put beneficiaries. If you put beneficiaries when you are still single, chances are you put your mother there, yeah? And maybe your mother is even no more. And you're currently married with children. Who is going to get the NSSF? Do we update our beneficiaries? Yeah? Who is the next of kin in your bank account? So once upon a time, I worked at a bank. And I saw this account. And it had so much money. And because I was not aware of who the person was, I was like, oh, let me call them and see if they'd want an investment opportunity because this money is just so much. And so when I tried to call, it didn't go through. And eventually someone at the bank told me, oh, no, this person passed away. And this person did not update their next of kin. So the bank has been trying to reach out to see who should we give this money to? But even the bank can't locate them. But this man had a family. Who is going to get that money? The government. Why? Because he did not update his beneficiaries. So can you imagine, you've worked all that and you're saying, this is for my children. But you give it to the government because you did not make a decision to be intentional about who is this money going to. Your pension, if you have a pension plan. Who are your beneficiaries? So this is what we're looking about when we're saying transferring wealth. But I want us, as I said, to go back and focus on creating wealth and growing wealth, because this is where our passion comes, right? So I will read from Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 16 in the Amplified Version. And this is what it says. She considers a field before she buys or accepts it, expanding her business prudently. With her profits, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyard. Yeah? So I'll just read that again. She considers a field before she buys or accepts it, expanding her business prudently. With her profits, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyards. And the first thing I want us to see there is she considers. What does consider mean? It means she thinks about it. It means before she gets into anything, an opportunity doesn't present itself. You know, these opportunities, may I be honest, I've been involved in 2 pyramid schemes. And in both of them, I lost all the money, yeah? You would think I learned from the first one, but then you know there are those things for you, you're so afraid of other people will make money, and you who was over there considering misses out on an opportunity. So anyways, life taught me, move at your own pace. But she considers it. And I want us to look at Ecclesiastes 7, 11 to 12, to just understand how this considering looks like. And I'm reading from the Amplified Version. It says, wisdom along with an inheritance is good and an excellent advantage for those who see the sun. For wisdom is a protection, even as money is a protection. But the excellent advantage of knowledge is that wisdom shields and preserves the lives of its possessors. So I want us to now go back to where we're talking about our passions. Every single one of us has something we can do. In addition to whether you're employed, there's something in addition you can do. Why? Because God has blessed us. That is one of the things we know because Psalm 139:16 tells us that there's a book in heaven where he has written all your days were ordained before one of them came to be. So we know God has a plan for each and every one of us, right? So God has put something in every one of us. So everyone can earn an income. Everyone can earn more than one income because God has wired us that way. And I want us to even consider this. There was the widow. Remember the widow who went to Elisha because her husband had left them in debt and her children were going to be sold. And she was telling Elisha, I need help. I don't know what to do. What does he ask her? What do you have? And what is her response? Nothing but. So chances are sometimes you'd be like, I don't know what to do, but there's always a but. And it is that but that God uses. Because she said nothing but a little jar of oil. Right? Remember the story of the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish? All it took was 2 loaves and 5 fish. And what happened? There was so much left over, they were able to fill the remainder of the bread in 12 baskets. So all of us have something in us that God can and will use, right? So, let us look at this. She considers a field before she buys it. So what is your field? What is your field? Because for you to be able to consider a field, you need to know, what is my field? What is that thing that comes so easy to you that you take for granted? Are you the person people go to solve their issues? Could that be your field? Do you just love fashion? Is that your field? Are you just that person who comes and you know where to put the flowers? Is that your field? Are you that person who is able to look at a problem and in one sitting, you're able to see, this is the solution. Start from here, start from there. And to you, you think it's so obvious. But to other people, it is not. Imagine you can monetize that. That thing which you say, I have nothing but. That but, you can make money out of it. Right? So what is your field? And I also want to say this for people who are employed. And sometimes, like for me, entrepreneurship isn't, I'm not those people who sit somewhere and we just see opportunities. So it's looking at, okay, if I may not necessarily maybe identify a field, what is that investment you can do? Right? Because what is an investment? An investment is something that you buy that will do one of two things, and hopefully both. It will either grow in value, which is why we like buying land, right? Because you say, this land, in 2 years' time, it will double. Or it will generate me an income. If it does those two things, it is an investment. So even if you're saying, but I don't really know, and then plus I'm busy and I work, and the work hours, and I cannot, but you can invest your money. And you can let your money make you money, right? And the reason why I want to insist on an income is, in as much as, yes, we're children of God, and even in farming, we can still prosper. Let us look at the reality of the current Kenyan economy. Inflation, 9.2%. That is high. The target the Central Bank of Kenya usually likes is 7%. We're at 9.2%. The Kenya shilling, if you go to the bank now to buy dollars, you're buying it at 145 shillings. What does that mean for fuel? What does that mean for everything that is being imported? And we import more than we export. So how will that translate to your pocket? Just even look at your electricity bill. You will see a difference, right? And chances are, if you're for example, employed, chances are your employer is not going to say, because inflation is so high, here, let me increase your salary also by 9.2% to match. Will they do that? So that's where we have to get additional income, right? So it's either by starting something, turning your passion into a profit, or it is by actually investing it in something that will generate an income, right? So I'll give you an example, treasury bonds. The last treasury bond came out at 14.399%, tax-free. So if you had a plan for your children, isn't that an avenue? And you can say, the interest I'll be earning from this can be paying school fees, right? So it's looking at, and this is why I said wealth is intentional. It's looking at, where are these fields that I need to be looking at? Question 2, why do you want that field? Why do you want to pursue that passion? So I'll give an example. Let's say you realized you spend a lot of time on social media. Yeah, and you can actually see nowadays how much time you actually spend there. So a lot of people spend at least 2 hours on social media, mindless scrolling. One of the things you can look at is, what catches your eye? What is it specifically you keep following on social media? What specific accounts and why are they attracting you? So like an example, let's say you just like cakes. And so you're just following everyone who is a baker. Could that be an inkling that there's something there? And maybe you could say, and I bake well, and people tell me I bake well. So let me look at this and see what I can do. But then the other question would be, but why? Remember we said money is a, let's see if you're listening. Money is a, oh my God. Money is a, yes, money is a servant. Does your servant tell you what to do, or do you tell your servant what to do? So what is the purpose of turning your passion into a profit? What are you trying to achieve? You have to give money a job description. Even you, when you are hired, you were given a job description, right? And then you are done for performance appraisals. And you're told, yes, you did what we told you to do. You executed it marvelously, or you did not. You also need to give your money performance appraisals. Is it doing what you told it to do? Yeah? So you have to ask yourself, why do I want an extra income? If it is to help pay school fees, write it down and say, money, this is going to be your purpose. This extra income I earn, you're going to pay school fees. If the purpose of this money is, I'm going to travel, then you tell it, the purpose I'm giving you, your job description is, you're going to grow enough for me to travel. But you have to always have a reason and a goal that you want your money to achieve. And that is why you find a lot of times we start businesses. 1 minute someone is like, oh, by the way, I'm selling things. Come to the boot of my car and let me show you what I have, right? Then you meet them 3 months down the line. You're like, oh, by the way, do you still sell this? They're like, oh, no, I changed. And now I am doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You meet them again 6 months down the line. They're doing something totally different. There's something about having a goal for your money that is going to keep you at it. You need to have a goal. For every investment you have, for every field you buy, for every passion, have a goal. And say, the reason the money I get from this is where you're going to go. I don't know about you, but there are times like I will go to the ATM and I will withdraw 1,000 shillings. And I will not, I don't know why I've withdrawn, but I have withdrawn. But by the time I get home, that money isn't there. And I am there like, oh my God, where did the money go? But imagine, because I didn't have a plan for it. And if you don't have a plan for your money, it will have a plan for you. Yeah? So always make sure you have a plan for it. So even this passion that you're going to turn into a profit, have a purpose for that profit. This investment that you're going to do, have a purpose for that investment. And remember, because here we're talking about wisdom going alongside money as a protection, the third thing you need to ask is, what does it cost to finance your field or your passion? Now, this is the thing. We need to think big. We need to dream big, but we need to start where we are. A lot of times, we remove ourselves from certain opportunities. So I'll give you an example. The infrastructure bond I spoke about, the entry point is 100,000, right? You may not have 100,000. So does that mean you just neglect investment opportunities? You start where you are with what you have, and you watch it grow. And that is why you have to find out, what is the actual cost of this business? What is the actual cost of this investment? Because guess what? If it's going to be expensive and you can't afford it, it doesn't mean that the business is a bad idea. It doesn't mean the investment is not for you. But it means we need to find out what is our starting point, right? So I'll give you an example of someone I know. So this particular person wanted to start a tea processing, planting, whatever, that whole tea business. And if you know anything about getting into tea, the politics, the competition, everything, it's very complicated. But it was their passion. And they actually had a relatively large sum of money to actually go into this business. But when they sat down with someone else and they asked her, why do you want to do this? And she's like, no, it's my passion and what. She was told, go and do the homework. Go and find out what is the truth. What is the true cost? And cost is not just financial. Cost is also emotional. Cost is also knowledge. Cost is networks. Go and find out what is the true cost of getting into this. After you have counted the cost, then you make an informed decision. And she went, and she did, and she said, in fact, I have seen. There is someone else who is doing it. I will invest in that person, and I will get my returns from that person. But as for me going directly, I won't do that. You have to find out what is the cost of that. I'll go back to the example I've been talking about, a bakery business. I don't know why. Maybe it's not a bakery you actually need. Imagine maybe it's just a cake you need to bake. And then you sell that one cake. And then after that, you will bake 2 cakes. And then you will sell those 2 cakes. And then after that, you will bake 3 cakes. What is the cost of baking a cake versus the cost of a bakery? But does that mean your dream of a bakery goes away? But you start somewhere. But the only way you can know where to start is you have to count the cost. What will it actually cost to start and to pursue that passion? Number 3, how will you finance it? Remember, we just talked about debt. Is your idea you're going to finance a new passion, a new business you don't know about with debt? I have seen a lot of people get into debt to buy land, for example, right? And land is good. But they got into debt to get it. And now they're in an emergency. The one thing you know about land is it could have doubled in price on paper. But try selling that land. How long does it take to sell that land? There are so many people who are so wealthy. Like if you calculate their net worth, they are so wealthy, but it's all in land. And they live very broke. I don't know if you've met such people. I have. They are so cash poor because everything is in land and now they're in debt. So what happens? You're now forced to sell that land at a throwaway price. So do you make the profit of that land? So one of the things is when you decide you're going to finance your business, how will you finance it? And this is now where you have to be true and realistic and start small. I'll give you an example of someone I know. These people who do thrifting business, right? And if you're on social media, you probably see this a lot of people who sell clothes. You go to Gikomba, you buy a shirt, a small top for 20 bob. You sell it at 100. How much profit have you made? What was your capital? 20 shillings. So before you think about, let me get onto the plane to go to China to bring the clothes, how can you start your business? Yeah? And it's being very, very practical. Yeah? And then look at, how will I finance it? Yeah? I was reading today was it today or yesterday, that already 800,000 people have defaulted on the Hustler Fund. 800,000 people. And in areas such as, is it Mandera? I think it was the highest default. 74% have defaulted on that. And so now their accounts have been frozen. Is that how you want to fund your business? And by the way, this is not a political commentary on the Hustler Fund. I'm just saying, let us think about how we finance the businesses. Yeah. The third thing is, what is the best way to start your passion without ruining your finances, which is related to the previous thing, right? Can you imagine starting a business and in the process you lose your savings, you lose your family, and you lose your friendships, all because it was too big a business to start at that time? So you have to look at what is the best way to start without ruining your finances. Then, how much money do you realistically focus to make? Now let's just also be real. Are you going to spend all that much time to make a little money? No? Yeah? But you have to have an idea of, I am getting into this passion. I am turning this, my passion of baking, into a business. How much do I actually expect to make? Because remember we said you have to give that money an assignment. So that money you're going to make, is it meeting your goal? Right? So let us say you have a child in class 8. Are they still in class 8 nowadays? I don't know. They are? Okay. And then they're going to Form 1. So maybe you're saying this extra income is to take care of boarding school expenses, all those things they buy. I don't know if they're still told to bring hockey sticks. I took a hockey stick, I never played hockey. The buckets that will keep being stolen, so you have to keep replacing. All those many things, yeah? So you say, this is my passion, that is the assignment it's going to do. But let us say, when you do the math, and this is realistic math. This is not the math for those people who tell you, I started this biashara. And from this biashara, I made 50K in the first week. This is not that kind of forecasting. This is where you actually sit and you say, this is how much it's going to cost me. This is how much I'm going to be charging, yeah? Whether it's a service or a product. So what will my profit be? Then you see, this profit, if I make this profit for now the next year until my daughter or my son goes to boarding school, will it meet my objective? If the profit is here and the objective is here, maybe you may want to consider making a change somewhere. Yeah? Maybe the change could be, I'm still interested in this area, but let me see what other way I can get into it at a lower cost. Or, as women are known to do, maybe I'm undercharging. Maybe I should actually increase the price of what I am offering, whether it's my service or if it is my good. Or maybe I should just find something else. Yeah? But you need to be able to identify, will this actually meet my goal realistically? And lastly, are you willing to put in the work? Because you have to put in the work. Even in an investment, you have to put in the work. You have to do due diligence on who is handling your money. Yeah? You don't just delegate and tell them, you figure it out. You have to do the work. What percentage of your time does that require? And are you willing and are you able to spare that time? Are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to run around, attend the conferences you need to attend? Are you willing to sit and learn from people? Are you willing to network from people? Are you willing to do the work? Because if you're not, imagine it will just be like, oh, we attended that conference, I learned this, and then nothing. And then what a shame it would be, yeah? So are you willing to do the work? But number 2, as I'm cognizant of time, is she says on that Proverbs 31 verse 16, it says, expanding her business prudently. And prudently means wisely, sensibly, and justifiably. If you remember even like how people expand, like if you remember the supermarkets that have collapsed, they just went on a whole expansion spree. Do you remember that? Like Nakumat was just expanding. Tuskys, expanding. But why are you expanding your business? Is it because you're the one who wants to feel good? Like, in fact, I have 10 employees under me and we are now in 3 locations. When you're looking at expanding your business, it's your business that tells you it is time for me to expand. You're not the one who tells your business it's time for me to expand. And that means it goes back again to the numbers. That means your business that you've already started is first of all meeting all its expenses and it's earning profit. Because remember here it's about profit. We're not doing this thing to break even or to make a loss. It's for a profit. Your business will tell you it is time for me to expand. And that is how we grow. So that by the time you're saying, let me add a particular location, it's because your business has told you it can support itself. But the other thing it has told you is, like, we have done the research. Because we don't just jump from here to here. We make it a prudent decision. We are still considering it. And we are saying, it makes sense. Let me now grow into this area. Your business will tell you it's time to diversify. It was like, listen, you started with a bakery. People are asking, they say your chocolate cake is very rich. They want coffee. So that's how you begin. Coffee. Your coffee shop next to your bakery. So your business tells you when. We don't tell our business. And we have to be so careful about not making it a vain thing. Because it feels good to say, I am in 3 locations across Kenya. And then you're struggling. So what is the benefit of being in 3 locations, but you're struggling? The other thing is expansion and growth is also not an emotional decision. So I just want us to remember this. Whenever it comes to money, any money decision you make, let it not be emotional. Because money is not emotional. Money just is. So let's not make any of our financial decisions emotionally, right? Money, and that's why when I said calculate your net worth, your money won't go like, I know I am in negative, but we had such a hard start. Our childhood was hard. We were laid off. Does your money tell you that? It just tells you I'm not here or I am here. Because money is not emotional. You can also not make your financial decisions emotionally, right? Then it goes on to say, Proverbs 31:16, with her profits, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyard. So note what she's using to plant with. It's her profits. Yeah? It's the business has started yielding. And so she's taking the profits and she's going to do something else that is fruitful, because it emphasizes with her profits, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyard, right? So how can you best use your profits so that they become seeds for your goals and the future instead of consuming everything? So that you start making money, your first thought is, hey, that car. Even me, I want to be seen driving a Discovery. But how are you looking at it and saying, actually, I can buy the Discovery, but I can also make sure that my children can buy Discoveries when they're 20. How do you look at your money and say, yes, I got this for the primary goal of educating my children. But how do I make sure that even with this money that I am getting, I still meet the goal, but I can also educate their masters and PhDs if they want to? How do you look at your money and say, yes, my purpose was to travel the world, but how many aeroplanes can I keep on being? How do I make sure that the next time I'm traveling, I can actually go and do mission work and change lives there? And that is where we have to become very, very familiar with investments. All right? So I'll just touch briefly on just 2 or 3 investments that you can at least easily fast start, because their entry point is not expensive. So I'll give you the example of money markets. So a lot of times you see these companies, right? You see Old Mutual, you see ICEA, you see Britam, you see all these people, right? Apart from insurance, they offer what is called unit trusts. And so what unit trusts are, think of it as a chama of many people. So you bring your money, I bring my money, we all bring our money, right? They take this pool, this bucket of money, and what do? They go and invest it. So remember, the treasury bond I told you about, the infrastructure bond, its entry point was 100,000, right? Treasury bills, the entry point is 100,000. Normal treasury bonds that are not infrastructure bonds, the entry point is 50,000 shillings. That may not be affordable for everyone. But you see, this fund manager has gone and collected all our money. And then with all that money, you are now invested in all those things that you were previously not invested in. Why? Because it's the power of economies of scale. Yeah? So those are the things you can look at. Right? Think of things like chamas. A lot of women, we love chamas. But are your chamas actually being profitable? When you actually sit and meet and you look at the books of investment, and not these chamas for, not the marigold, not the ones for sufurias. I remember my mom was in one for buying sufurias. I don't know how that worked. Not those ones. But the ones where you say, let us meet, let us each put our money, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are ways you can take advantage of economies of scale. Think about it this way. To buy a piece of land, let's say it's 500,000. Maybe you don't have 500,000. But you're 10 of you in your chama, and each of you can remove 50,000. Do you own land? So are you seeing how you can use profit to get into fruitful vines, to get into fruitful investments, right? I'll give you another example. The dollar. Lord knows, let's see where the dollar goes, right? I don't know where it will go. But if your dream is to send your child to university abroad, why are you investing in Kenya shillings? Why don't you invest in the dollar? Because you're going to pay their school fees in the dollar. Their living expenses will be in the dollar. So if you're earning money and you're saying this money is to send my child, and because we dream big, this money is to send my child to Harvard. In the Kenya shilling, if it continues to depreciate, that dream might be a pipe dream, right? But if you invest in the currency you intend to spend in, doesn't that make sense? And you can invest locally in offshore investments. Locally, there are people, and these are legitimate people, not those funny people. There are banks who will give you access to this, right? Right now, you spend so much time on your phone, on Instagram, Facebook. So why not buy Facebook shares? Why not make money from the thing that you're spending all your time on? Right? You use Microsoft and Google. Why not buy Google shares? Why not buy Microsoft shares? You shop on Amazon once in a while and you're saying, hey, I need to bring this from abroad. So why not buy Amazon shares? These opportunities are available. But again, it goes to intention. And intention will make you study to go and find out, how do I actually access this? Yeah? Very good. And the other thing I will say is, once you also start growing your business, the thing we have to be careful of, and even investments, is separate your accounts. Yeah? Because remember, you want these profits to bring something more fruitful. So this is what happens when we start, even if it's a sole proprietorship or whatever. You know, like you've just said, let me sell this to Noni. What we do is, the money comes to us. If it's M-Pesa, it goes into my current M-Pesa account, right? And then what happens? I feel like I have money. And then I use it. we have to be very careful to separate accounts. So if you receive your money by M-Pesa, have a different SIM card specifically for receiving that money. Have a different bank account specifically for that money. Yeah? So that what happens, the business pays you. It doesn't just become your money. And by the time you're sitting down and saying, my business is going to pay me this amount, chances are you have done the math. But you have to be very careful to separate yourself from your business. Separate yourself from the investment. And the reason why it's also important for investments is you sell your piece of land, you get a large sum of money coming into your account. Suddenly, needs will start coming up. People will start calling you. Before you know it, the money that you actually made from your hard work of an investment just disappears. But if you have an account specifically for investments, where you say, when the investment comes, it comes into this account. Any investments I do from this account, not from my current account, the one that receives salary, the one that receives everything, the one that pays bills, but a specific account. That is how you start becoming also very intentional about tracking and seeing, are my investments actually making me money or not? Because if you mix it all up, imagine you won't be able to tell if you're making a profit. I remember I was speaking to an Uber driver one time, and he was telling me how he was so shocked one day when he sat and he looked at his M-Pesa app and he realized how much money he actually handles in a month because he cannot account for it. And the advice that he was given was separate where you receive your money and from your normal M-Pesa. Because those are the small things that we do that can actually end up messing us up. And I am being very cognizant of time. So I will just leave you with this. And if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them for the remaining time that I have. Remember that wealth is intentional. If it's one thing you take away from me today, please let it be. Wealth is intentional. Turning your passion into a profit is intentional. And I will leave us with 2 verses. One of them is Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4 in the Amplified Version. And this is what it says. Poor is he who works with a negligent hand, but the hand of the diligent makes him rich. If you're negligent and idle with your finances, please do not be surprised if the result is not riches. But be diligent. Be diligent with your finances. In as much as our money is a servant, let's still be diligent with it, right? And lastly, we have to take it back to God. Romans 8:14. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. In all things, always go back to the Holy Spirit. Before you get into that business, go back to the Holy Spirit. Before you get into that investment, consult the Holy Spirit. Because we know from John 16, he teaches us all things, not just the spiritual things. Yeah? So, and that marks the end of my presentation. And I am willing to receive questions if there are any.
Amen. Let's appreciate Noni. Let's appreciate her. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I'm thinking about it. And I'm wondering, there are times when money has commanded me. Because there are times I have money in my bag. Then when I sit in the house, I try remembering there's something that is not adding up. And I feel like somebody has stolen. Have you ever felt that way? Until I sit down and I start So it is the money that was telling me what to do.
Yes, it became your boss on that day.
Are you for real?
I'm very for real. You decided you were going to serve your money.
And so money decided that it would be my boss.
It did.
Oh yeah. Poleni sana kwa sababu najua kuna wengine wameketi hapa ambao unaingia kwa nyumba jioni unasema I had 2,000. Then you try to find out, you realize that you only have 500. That day it was your boss. Now Sylvia, you have talked to us about investment in unit trust. How much, what is the least amount of money that we can invest in unit trust?
100 shillings.
Is anybody here with 100 shillings? Why can't we start today? Oh, sorry. Noni, how? Ngoja tu. How do we invest? How do we start?
Okay. So I will try and go through this quickly, right? But before you make an investment, there are certain questions you have to ask yourself. Number one, what is the purpose of this investment? We already touched on that. Number two, how long will I require the money back? So I'll give you an example. If you need the money in a year, you don't want to go into land. Because you can sell land for a year.
Okay.
You go into what we call money market instruments. These are fixed deposits, treasury bills, call deposits, and the like. And the reason you go into those are they're relatively safe.
You moved a bit fast.
I moved quickly.
When you said call deposit, they are thinking that they will receive a call.
A call deposit is this. You have money that you are estimating you may need soon, but you don't know how soon. So banks have a facility called a call deposit. You put the money in deposit with them. It's separate from your savings account. In exchange, they pay you an interest until you decide, I want my money. The reason why people opt for call deposits sometimes instead of fixed deposits is if I have a fixed deposit with the bank, right? And I say I'm getting this money from the bank in 3 months. If I come back after 1 month, I may lose out on all the interest I have earned. So that is a call deposit.
Thank you very much. Now we know. You also talked of telling us how now to go into money market.
Yes.
Because I want to believe that each one of us has 100 bob here. We have 100 bob. Josephine, do you have 100 bob? Okay. How do we do it?
So now that
because at the end of the day today, tutakuwa money market. Hallelujah. Yeah, hiyo ndio practical ya leo.
I like your assignments. So this is what you do. After you've decided it's the money market that you want, right? They're what we call fund managers. These are the ones I mentioned who do the investing on your behalf, right? So they're a number. Even some banks have gotten into it. You just tell them, I want to invest. They give you the account opening form and you invest. So all you have to do is go walk to them. Go to them. Go to Britam. I'm not advertising anyone, so you still do your due diligence.
No, it's okay, Noni, you're helping us.
Go to ICEA, Standard Chartered, NCBA, ABSA, Stanbic sold to ICEA. All these people, probably your own bank, has a money market. And so just think about it. The treasury bill is currently at around 9.7%, right? Savings accounts, if you're lucky, you're getting 3%. Inflation is 9.2%. So if you're earning 3% and inflation is 9.2%, you've actually lost 6%. Has that math matched?
Yeah, it's making sense. Thank you, Sylvia. Now, you have talked about treasury bills, and you have also talked about treasury bonds. We don't know whether maybe you are making a mistake or they are different. Bills and bonds.
Okay.
Maybe can you tell us the difference between the two?
Okay.
And which one is easier to invest in?
They're both the same process. So, what are treasury bills and treasury bonds? To run the country, the government needs money. It gets that money from either taxes or borrowing. So what a treasury bill or bond is, the government comes to you and tells you, we need 500 billion. Give us the money. In exchange, we will pay you an interest. So a treasury bill or treasury bond, you're actually lending to the government. In exchange, they pay you an interest. The difference between the two is in the time frame. Treasury bills are short-term, 91-day, 182-day, 364 days. So you get your money after that time. Treasury bonds are long-term. 1 year, the longest we have is 30 years. So that's the difference. But even if you get a long-term bond, you can still sell it on the NSE, the Nairobi Securities Exchange.
Thank you, Sylvia. Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm asking for a friend.
Mm-hmm. We know who the friend is.
This dollar account, we were thinking the dollar accounts are for the, who is who, of this nation. But you're telling us that we can open dollar accounts here, especially if we want to go out to the US, but not the one that is a criminal offense, not that one. Not that one. If maybe our children are traveling to go and read and study, so you're telling us that we can open a dollar account. Are there requirements that maybe we might not qualify as you look at us here?
First of all, remember who we are. Our identity is in Christ. And he says the silver and the gold belong to him. So please, what you do, you walk with confidence to your bank. And you say you want to open a dollar account.
So number one, confidence.
Don't ever tell yourself no. Let them tell you no, but you don't tell yourself no, right?
Don't tell yourself no. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to save, for example, let's say you're saving, you're not looking to invest in dollars, which is an advantage because if you think about it, in 2020, the shilling was at 104. It's at 145. If you just held dollars in your account, how much money have you made? Opening savings accounts in Kenya, irrespective of currency, is free. You are not charged to open a savings account. Certain banks will have certain minimums. I know for my bank, the minimum is $50. Different banks have different minimums. The one that can be a bit expensive is if you open a current account. But if you're saving, it is free. Yeah? What I spoke about also was investing. So you can actually invest in dollars. And for this one, make sure whoever you go to is CMA licensed. The Capital Markets Authority is the regulator of the investment industry in Kenya. So don't just go to someone who will tell you, hey, give me this money, I will invest for you in Amazon. You go to CMA licensed fund managers or brokers, and you can get that list from the CMA website, right? So I'll give you an example. There are certain banks, the minimum is $100 to invest in offshore investments. There are others which will tell you, what share do you want to buy? The price of the share determines how much you invest, but they're very, very affordable to get into. And there are people there to guide you. When you hear banks have gotten into wealth management, don't think wealth management is just for the nannies, because even us, we are the nannies. Yeah, so even you go there confidently.
Thank you very much. The last one, before we allow the participants to ask our delegates. You said that a business can tell you that now you are supposed to diversify me, or I'm supposed to diversify. Does it speak in a language that you can hear or understand? Or how do you know that your business is speaking?
It does.
I'm also asking for a friend.
It does. And how you know is you look at your profit and loss statement, you look at your balance sheet and your cash flow statement. In other words,
Hizo
the money...
mnazijua nyinyi? Hizo zimesema mnazijua? Okay.
That one will be an accountant. If I start explaining those ones, I will lie to you.
No, it's okay.
But what I mean by that is the money will tell you. If you're running a business, you know when you're struggling. If you're running a business, you know when you're making a profit, right? When you look at the account, you know how many months it has before it finishes. That's your business talks to you in money. So when you see, I have reached like a plateau, but the business is still good, right? You're still getting what you need to go. You remember there was a key word that came out during COVID, which was pivot. Maybe that's the time to look at what else can I do in addition? How else can I grow my business? So the money will tell you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. We truly appreciate you. Are you better than the way you were before you sat for this? Then if you are better, you can't clap, you can't appreciate. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's just give Sylvia a round of applause. Please. Thank you so much. That one you don't know what it means, but it's called ululation. It's the highest level of honor by somebody like me. So thank you so much. Now, 2 questions. Time for 2 questions. Anybody with a question? Anybody with a question? Yes, Sarah.
Hi. So,
Hi.
ningependa kuuliza
You can stand if you don't mind.
sema kama nimechukua education cover ya mtoto. So is it inawezekana labda ni hiyo pesa wananikata isikuwe in Kenyan shilling, ikuwe in dollars?
No. Because you know the education cover and all those, it was a contract you signed with them. And because it was in shillings, they can only pay you in shillings. So that was a contract, so no. There are very many it's very hard to get an international insurer education cover unless you get one from abroad. So no, it will still be in shillings, yeah.
Bwana asifiwe.
Amen.
You told us about the 3 F's when maybe we want to borrow money. And I was concerned because you told us about the family, you told us about the friends, and you told us about the fools. And maybe I was a fool, so I would want some clarification. Who are these fools? You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it is a term that is used generally everywhere. So it's not an insulting term.
Yeah.
What it pretty much means, there are people who do not care about where their money goes. They have so much of it, they won't ask you any questions. You just tell them, I need 10,000 shillings. Here. I need this amount of money. They just give you with no demands on it. So they are actually such people who just give money. So those are why they're classified fools, because they're not concerned about. They're just, I love you so much here. You know, yeah, I believe in what you're doing here. Whether or not it turns a profit or not, they're just happy you're happy. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Oh, yeah.
2, Mm-hmm. The first one, you said debt is not a sin, or it's not a good idea, yeah? Mm-hmm. So I wondered, the circles, they seem to also pay a good return. How prudent is it when then you join a circle, not for the purpose of borrowing, but for the purpose of saving? And then I also wondered about the effect of inflation on the money that you channel to the money market.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for SACCOs,
To your net worth, that is now.
oh, okay. So your SACCO, a SACCO is still worthwhile to invest in because when you go into a SACCO, you're buying shares and then there are returns you get from those shares, right? So it's about knowing who are you in that SACCO. And I'm not saying that never ever get into debt, but for some people who have found that even if you have to actually get into debt, sometimes it's easier to go the SACCO way than the bank way, right? So I'm not saying do not get into debt, but really, really think about it. So if you do your research and you see, even the return I'm getting from the SACCO, even if I'm not getting into debt, is still very good, then still put your money there. But also with SACCOs, also do your due diligence to, is this a good SACCO? Because there have been some tremors here and there. In regards to the effect of inflation on your net worth, you won't factor it in when you're putting the calculation. But what you will suddenly realize is, let's just assume your net worth is 2 million shillings. There was a time when 2 million shillings could get you a lot. 2 million shillings now may not get you as much, right? So all that will tell you is that, okay, yes, I'm positive, I am good, but maybe what this can get me may not be that much, right? So you'll see the impact of inflation there. But then what it also tells you is, then how do I grow my money so as to take care of the impact of inflation? And that is like now where you consider, okay, this money market, is it beating inflation? The return I am getting from this. So for example, if you have a money market and the interest it's telling you is 8%, but inflation is 9.2%, is that the best decision for you? So you go, you shop around and you see which money market will I enter so that I'm able to beat inflation. Yeah.
I have a question. My question is about the savings in the money market and T-bills and the treasury bonds. Can you continually add the amount that you want to save with that investment, or you just do it, just put money one-off? Or can you continually grow that investment as years goes?
Yeah. So for money markets, you can. You can put as many times as much as you want, and it doesn't have to be the same amount. If you have 1,000 shillings today, you can put 1,000. If you have 10,000, you can put 10,000. If you don't want to continue putting, you're not obligated to stay. With treasury bills and treasury bonds, you can still buy more, but you can't add to the one you already have. You'll be getting new ones, right? So if you bought one treasury bill, the government has already taken its money. That is a contract that has been done. So then if you want to add, you now buy another treasury bill. Yeah.
I have a question.
The second last. The last one will be by Reverend.
Where is she? Oh, okay.
You've talked about saving in foreign currencies, but you've not talked about the risks involved. Maybe today, maybe you save in dollars, and tomorrow you find that there's a high level of volatility. Maybe could you tell us whether you can predict the volatility levels so that you don't lose money when you wake up like tomorrow? Because it's, I don't know, is there a way of predicting the volatility?
So for saving is just putting your money in a bank account, right? I want us to differentiate saving and investing. So savings, you put in your bank account and you leave it there, right? So if you're saving in dollars, for example, the risk you're taking is your bank. If your bank collapses, then you know DCIKZ will come in, that whole insurance process, and then they determine how much each person gets. So that's the risk involved with savings and just normal banking, right? When it comes to investments, every investment, let no one lie to you. Every single investment has a risk. Every single. Even that business of yours has a risk, right? The question is, what is your comfort level? So I'll give you an example. If you're a conservative investor, please do not attempt to get into shares. Do not attempt to get into business. Do not attempt to get into, Bitcoin and the rest. Please stay with your money market, your treasury bills, and your treasury bonds. If you're an aggressive investor, the world is very much open to you. But remember, even with risk, it's usually that thing that says the higher the risk, the higher the return. It is a lie. The higher the risk, the higher the potential for return. It has to have potential. So when you're looking at, for example, because you'll be guided by this, you don't just go buy shares. So let's say, for example, you say, I want to buy Google shares, right? You will be guided by that, and you'll be told this investment, because you're buying shares and how the tech industry currently is doing, they're just laying off people. Maybe this is the risk you'll be taking, and maybe you'll be losing some bit of money. But this is the thing, when you're choosing what investment to enter, ask yourself and be honest. If I lost this money, how will that impact me? Are you the person who, when you see shares going down, you run? You're like, give me all my money. Or are you the person who says, Ebu, hey, hapa there's an opportunity, let me even buy more? I'll give you an example. When Safaricom IPO came out, I bought it. It was at 5 shillings, right? And I was still in university, so that was a lot of money. But then what happened is after some time, it started dropping. And that share price reached 3 shillings. And people were selling. There were people like me. Because by that time I had a job. And I would go with my 1,000 to the stockbroker. Always go with confidence. It doesn't matter how much money you're going with. And I would buy shares. And I'd just be like, I'm buying Safaricom shares. Eventually, when I was selling my Safaricom shares, because now I needed the money, the share price I sold it for was almost 20 shillings. But you see, when it was going down, I'm not someone who panics. I'm that person it was a lesson learned. But if you know you can't afford to take that risk, don't do that. And that's why it's important to always know, what is the purpose of my money? So if that purpose was for a child's education, I wouldn't put it there. Because school fees won't wait for the share prices to go up. But if it's a long-term plan I have, I'm willing to take the risk. But all investments have risk. Even treasury bills and treasury bonds, they are the safest investment because the government owns the Kenya shilling. They just print, they pay you. Even during the Moi regime, the treasury bill hit 80%. And they still paid. However, we have seen countries like Ghana having to restructure bonds, where the government is like, listen, we can't pay you now without messing up the economy and making the inflation ridiculous. We are going to restructure. So every investment has risk. Even that living has a risk.
Thank you very much. The last one from Reverend.
Thank you so much, Noni. I have 2 questions. Talk about merry-go-rounds. The chamas is our mama. In matters investment, would we consider that an investment? Mm-hmm. And then the loans they receive when they are doing their chamas, the do's and don'ts. And then question number 2, how do you invest in Bitcoin?
Okay. I'll start with the chamas. I'll tell you what the biggest mistake chamas have made, right? Chamas are a very, very good idea because it's taking advantage of economies of scale, yeah? It's saying, you together, we can have a certain amount of money, right? Chamas are a very good idea, and I love the idea of chamas. Where we go wrong is we do not formalize them. So we say, I'm going to, Nani wants a loan and this, and even you agree on the interest rate. Nani just leaves. They leave the chama. What will you do? Doesn't that cripple the chama? I want us to look at chamas as if you're actually entering a business, because guess what? It is a business. And even if you notice, a lot of the financial institutions, the banks and even fund managers and all this, they're coming up with products for chamas. Why? Because if you formalize that, you can make a lot of money, right? Instead of struggling, you know that thing that says one can go, if you want to go quickly, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. That's what chamas do. Chamas democratize wealth. So I encourage chamas, but this is what I say. Formalize them. Have agreements in place, right? And know the people you're inviting. So just because I've met her today, and you know, I know a deliverance church, but do I know her? So before I bring her to my chama, isn't there some due diligence that needs to be done? Before you even start loaning out people, how good are they with their contributions? That will tell you a lot, right? So are you loaning out to the person who is always missing out on their contributions? So I always say this, when it comes to chamas, formalize and put trust in them, right? Because even the loan rates are very affordable and friendly, right? The next question was Bitcoin. Okay. So, okay. Bitcoin, what you do is you go to an exchange or even now there are people in Kenya, right, who offer it. Please be very careful. There are so many scams around it, and I don't know, are you going to tell me time? But when you want to make certain of is that you're actually buying Bitcoin. There are very many people who have come around and they say, if you give us this money, then we will buy for you. And it sort of looks like a bit of a pyramid scheme, right? There are certain regulated, not in Kenya, but globally. No, they're not regulated. But there are certain people who are just known specifically for cryptocurrency, right? And they have made a name for themselves. An example would be like Binance, right? So all you have to do is open a wallet or an account with them. You put money, you buy the Bitcoin, it is yours. You want to sell. You know just how like you buy and sell shares on the stock exchange? That's how you buy and sell Bitcoin. Please do not allow anyone to wrap it up in another product. If you see they're selling you, cryptocurrency, Ethereum, all these things, but then they're adding many other things. Please know you're not buying Bitcoin. You're in a pyramid scheme. You have to be in an exchange. Similar to how there's NSC, they also have exchanges. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please let's appreciate our speaker this afternoon. Wow. Now we know. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate. You've really done it. And thank you so much. Asante sana. As she walks to her seat, let's appreciate her. Did I tell you I also used to walk like that? I don't know what happened. Imagine. But thank you so much, Noni. We appreciate. There are many people that have looked at you and seen some years back. There is hope. Ladies, there is hope. Tell your neighbor there is hope. There is financial hope. But there is also another hope. Thank you so much. She told us that your business will tell you it's time to diversify. Let me give you a story of one business that I did. So I was in a business of selling juice.